Good day, everyone. Today we are going to tackle about professional ethics. Code of conduct for professional teachers. First is the teacher and the state, a trustee of the cultural and educational heritage of the nation. The schools are the nurseries of the future citizens of the state. Each teacher is a trustee of the cultural and educational heritage of the nation and is under obligation to transmit to learners such heritage as well as to elevate national morality, promote national pride, cultivate love of country, instill allegiance to the Constitution and for all duly constituted authorities, and promote obedience to the laws of the state. Next is the teachers should elevate national morality, promote national pride, and cultivate love of country. Actively help carry out the declared policies of the state. Every teacher or school official shall actively help carry out the declared policies of the state and shall take an oath to this effect. Teachers must be physically, mentally, and morally fit. In the interest of the state and of the Filipino people, as much as of his own, every teacher shall be physically, mentally, and morally fit, possess and actualize full commitment and devotion to duty. Every teacher shall possess and actualize a full commitment and devotion to duty. Shall not engage in the promotion of any political, religious, or other partisan interest. A teacher shall not engage in the promotion of any political, religious, or other partisan interest and shall not directly or indirectly solicit, require, collect, or receive any money or service or other valuable material from any person or entity for such purposes. Next is shall vote and shall exercise all other constitutional rights and responsibilities and shall enjoy academic freedom. Every teacher shall enjoy academic freedom and shall have privilege of expounding the product of his researches and investigations, provided that, if the results are inimical to the declared policies of the state, they shall be brought to the proper authorities for appropriate remedial action. Second is the teacher in the community shall render the best services. A teacher is a facilitator of learning and of the development of the youth. He shall, therefore, render the best service by providing an environment conducive to such learning and growth. Provide leadership and initiative to actively participate in community movements. Every teacher shall provide leadership and initiative to actively participate in community movements for moral, social, educational, economic, and civic betterment. Behave with honor and dignity at all times and refrain from gambling, smoking, drunkenness, and illicit relations. Every teacher shall merit reasonable social recognition, for which purpose he shall behave with honor and dignity at all times, and refrain from such activities as gambling, smoking, drunkenness, and other excesses from less illicit relations. Study and understand local customs and traditions. Every teacher shall live for and with the community and shall therefore study and understand local customs and traditions in order to have sympathetic attitude, therefore refrain from disparaging the community. Next is inform the community about the school works, accomplishes, its needs and problems. Every teacher shall help the school keep the people in the community informed about the school's work and accomplishments as well as its needs and problems. Provide leadership in the community when needed, extend counseling services. Every teacher is intellectual leader in the community, especially in the barangay, and shall welcome the opportunity to provide such leadership when needed, to extend counseling services as appropriate, and to actively be involved in matters affecting the welfare of the people. Third is the teacher in the profession. Ensure that teaching is the noblest profession. Every teacher shall actively ensure that teaching is the noblest profession, and shall manifest genuine enthusiasm and pride in teaching as a noble calling. Uphold the highest possible standards of quality education. Every teacher shall uphold the highest possible standards of quality education, shall make the best preparations for the career of teaching, and shall be at his best at all times and in the practice of his profession. Participate in the continuing professional education program. Every teacher shall participate in the continuing professional program of the Professional Regulation Commission and shall pursue such other studies as will improve his efficiency, enhance the prestige of the profession, and strengthen his competence, virtues, and productivity in order to be nationally and internationally competitive. Help if duly authorized to seek support of the school. Every teacher shall help, if duly authorized, to seek support from the school, but shall not make improper misrepresentations through personal advertisements and other questionable means. And lastly, teachers shall use teaching profession in a manner that makes it a dignified means for earning a decent living. Fourth is the teacher and the higher authorities in the Philippines. Make an honest effort to understand and support the legitimate policies of the school and the administration. Every teacher shall make it his duties to make an honest effort to understand and support the legitimate policies of the school and the administration, regardless of personal feeling or private opinion, and shall faithfully carry them out. Make no false accusations or charges against superiors, especially under anonymity. A teacher shall not make any false accusations or charges against superiors, especially under anonymity. However, if there are valid charges, he should present such under oath to competent authority. Transact all official business through channels. A teacher shall transact all official business through channels except when special conditions warrant a different procedure, such as when special conditions are advocated but are opposed by immediate superiors, in which case the teacher shall appeal directly to the appropriate higher authority. Seek redress against injustice and discrimination and raise his grievances within democratic processes. Every teacher, individually or as part of a group, has a right to seek redress against injustice to the administration and, to extent possible, shall raise grievances within acceptable democratic processes. In doing so, they shall avoid jeopardizing the interest and the welfare of learners whose right to learn must be respected. Next, as every teacher has a right to invoke the principle that appointments, promotions, and transfer of teachers are made only on the basis of merit and needed in the interest of the service. And a teacher who accepts a position assumes a contractual obligation to live up to his contract, assuming full knowledge of employment terms and conditions. Fifth is the teacher and learners. A teacher has a right and duty to determine the academic marks and the promotions of learners in the subject or grades he handles. Such determination shall be in accordance with generally accepted procedures of evaluation and measurement. In case of any complaint, teachers concerned shall immediately take appropriate actions, observing due process. Next is a teacher shall recognize that the interest and welfare of learners are of first and foremost concerns, and shall deal justifiably and impartially with each of them. Shall not be prejudiced nor discriminate any learner. So, under no circumstance shall a teacher be prejudiced nor discriminated against by the learner. Next is a teacher shall not accept favors or gifts from learners, their parents, or others in their behalf in exchange for requested concessions, especially if undeserved. And the teacher shall not accept, directly or indirectly, any remuneration from tutorials, other what is authorized for such service. A teacher shall base the evaluation of the learner's work only in merit and quality of academic performance. Exercise utmost discretion to avoid scandal, gossip, and preferential treatment of the learner. In a situation where mutual attraction and subsequent love develop between teacher and learner, the teacher shall exercise utmost professional discretion to avoid scandal, gossip, and preferential treatment of the learner. Next is a teacher shall not inflict corporal punishment on offending learners, nor make deductions from their scholastic ratings as a punishment for acts which are clearly not manifestation of poor scholarship. And a teacher shall ensure that conditions contribute to the maximum development of learners are adequate, and shall extend needed assistance in preventing or solving learners' problems and difficulties. Sixth is the teacher and parents. Every teacher shall establish and maintain cordial relations with parents and shall conduct himself to merit their confidence and respect. Every teacher shall inform parents through proper authorities of the progress and deficiencies of learner under him, exercising utmost candor and tact in pointing out learners' deficiencies and in seeking parents' cooperation for the proper guidance and improvement of the learners, and a teacher shall hear parents' complaints with sympathy and understanding and shall discourage unfair criticism. Seventh is the teacher and business. A teacher has the right to engage directly or indirectly in legitimate income generation, provided that it does not relate to or adversely affect his work as a teacher. A teacher shall maintain a good reputation with respect to the financial matters, such as in the settlement of his debts and loans, in arranging satisfactorily his private financial affairs, and no teacher shall act, directly or indirectly, as agent of or be financially interested in any commercial venture which furnish textbooks and other school commodities in the purchase and disposal of which he can exercise official influence, except only when his assignment is inherently related to such purchase and disposal, provided they shall be in accordance with the existing regulations, provided further that members of duly recognized teachers' cooperatives may participate in the distribution and sale of such commodities. So that's all for the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers. And now, let's tackle about the Republic Act number 6713. So, Republic Act number 6713 is an act establishing a code of conduct and ethical standards for public officials and employees to uphold the time-honored principle of public office being a public trust, granting incentives and rewards for exemplary service, enumerating prohibited acts and transactions, and providing penalties for violations thereof and for other purposes. Under Section 1 of this Republic Act is the title. Republic Act number 6713 is known as the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. Under Section 2 is the Declaration of Policies. Promote a high standards of ethics in public service. It is the policy of the state to promote a high standard of ethics in public service. Public officials and employees shall at all times be accountable to the people and shall discharge their duties with utmost responsibility, integrity, competence, and loyalty, act with patriotism and justice, lead modest lives, and uphold public interest over personal interest. Section 3 of Republic Act number 6713 is the definition of terms. Government. It includes the national government, the local governments, and all other instrumentalities, agencies, or branches of the Republic of the Philippines, including government-owned or controlled corporations and other subsidiaries. Public officials includes the elective and appointed officials and employees, permanent or temporary, whether in the career or non-career service, including military and police personnel, whether or not they receive compensation, regardless of amount. Next is loan. It covers both simple loan and comodatum as well as guarantees, financing arrangements, or accommodations intended to ensure its approval. Substantial stakeholder means any person who owns, directly or indirectly, shares of stock sufficient to elect a director of a corporation. This term shall also apply to the parties to a voting trust. Family of public officials or employees means their spouses and unmarried children under 18 years of age. Conflict of interest arises when a public official or employee is a member of a board, an officer, or a substantial stockholder of a private corporation or owner, or has a substantial interest in a business and the interest of such corporation or business, or his rights or duties therein, may be opposed to or affected by the faithful performance of official duty. Divestment is the transfer of title or disposal of interest in property by voluntarily, completely, and actually depriving or dispossessing oneself of his right or title to it in favor of a person or persons other than his spouse and relatives as defined in this act. Relatives refers to any and all persons related to a public official or employee within the fourth civil degree of consanguinity or affinity, including bilas, inso, and balai. Section 4 of the Republic Act No. 6713 is the norms of conduct of public officials and employees. Every public official and employee shall observe the following as standards of personal conduct in the discharge and execution of official duties. First is the commitment to public interest. Public officials and employees shall always uphold the public interest over and above personal interest. All government resources and powers of their respective offices must be employed and used efficiently, effectively, honestly, and economically, particularly to avoid wastage in public funds and revenues. Second is professionalism. Public officials and employees shall perform and discharge their duties with the highest degree of excellence, professionalism, intelligence, and skill. They shall enter public service with utmost devotion and dedication to duty. They shall endeavor to discourage wrong perceptions of their roles as dispensers or peddlers of undue patronage. Third is justness and sincerity. Public officials and employees shall remain true to the people at all times. They must act with justness and sincerity and shall not discriminate against anyone, especially the poor and the underprivileged. They shall at all times respect the rights of others and shall refrain from doing acts contrary to law, good morals, good customs, public policy, public order, public safety, and public interest. Fourth is the political neutrality. Public officials and employees shall provide service to everyone without unfair discrimination and regardless of party affiliation or preference. Fifth is responsiveness to the public. Public officials and employees shall extend prompt, courteous, and adequate service to the public, unless otherwise provided by law or when required by the public interest. Public officials and employees shall provide information of their policies and procedures in clear and understandable language, ensure openness of information, public consultations and hearings whenever appropriate, encourage suggestions, simplify and systematize policy, rules, and procedures, avoid red tape, and develop an understanding and appreciation of the socio-economic conditions prevailing in the country, especially in the depressed rural and urban areas. Sixth is the nationalism and patriotism. Public officials and employees shall at all times be loyal to the Republic and to the Filipino people, promote the use of locally produced goods, resources, and technology, and encourage appreciation and pride of country and people. They shall endeavor to maintain and defend Philippine sovereignty against foreign intrusion. Seventh is the commitment to democracy. Public officials and employees shall commit themselves to the democratic way of life and values, maintain the principle of public accountability, and manifest by deeds the supremacy of civilian authority over the military. They shall at all times uphold the Constitution and put loyalty to country above loyalty to persons or party. Lastly is the simple living. Public officials and employees and their families shall lead modest lives appropriate to their positions and income. They shall not indulge in extravagant or display of wealth in any form. The Civil Service Commission shall adopt positive measures to promote, first, the observance of these standards, including the dissemination of information programs and workshops authorizing merit increases beyond regular progression steps to a limited number of employees recognized by their office colleagues to be outstanding in their observance of ethical standards, and second is the continuing research and experimentation on measures which provide positive motivation to public officials and employees in raising the general level of observance of these standards. Under Section 5 of this Republic Act is the duties of public officials and employees. First is to act promptly on letters and requests. All public officials and employees shall within 15 working days from receipt thereof respond to letters, telegrams, or other means of communication sent by the public. The reply must contain the action taken on the request. Submit annual performance reports. All heads or other responsible officers of offices and agencies of the government and of government-owned or controlled corporations shall, within 45 working days from the end of the year, render a performance report of the agency or office or corporation concerned. Such report shall be open and available to the public within regular office hours. Process documents and papers expeditiously. All official papers and documents must be processed and completed within a reasonable time from the preparation thereof and must contain, as far as practicable, not more than 3 signatories therein. In the absence of duly authorized signatories, the official next in rank or officer in charge shall sign for and in their behalf. Next is to act immediately on the public's personal transactions. All public officials and employees must attend to anyone who wants to avail himself of the services of their offices and must at all times act promptly and expeditiously. Lastly is to make documents accessible to the public. All public documents must be made accessible to and readily available for inspection by the public within reasonable working hours. Section 6 of this Republic Act is the system of incentives and rewards. A system of annual incentives and rewards is hereby established in order to motivate and inspire public servants to uphold the highest standards of ethics. For this purpose, a committee on awards to outstanding public officials and employees is hereby created, composed of the following: the Ombudsman and Chairman of the Civil Service Commission as co-chairman, and the Chairman of the Commission on Audit, and 2 government employees to be appointed by the President as members. Under Section 7 of this Republic Act is the prohibited acts and transactions. In addition to acts and omissions of public officials and employees now prescribed in the Constitution and existing laws, the following shall constitute prohibited acts and transactions of any public official and employee and are hereby declared to be unlawful. Financial and material interest. Public officials and employees shall not, directly or indirectly, have any financial or material interest in any transaction requiring the approval of their office. Outside employment and other activities related. Public officials and employees during their incumbency shall not, first, own, control, manage, or accept employment as officer, employee, consultant, counsel, broker, agent, trustee, or nominee in any private enterprise regulated supervised or licensed by their office unless expressly allowed by law. Second is engage in the private practice of their profession unless authorized by the Constitution or law, provided that such practice will not conflict or tend to conflict with their official functions or recommend any person to any position in a private enterprise which has a regular or pending official transaction with their office. These prohibitions shall continue to apply for a period of 1 year after resignation, retirement, or separation from public office, except in the case of subparagraph above, but the professional concerned cannot practice his profession in connection with any matter before the office he used to be with, in which the case the 1 year prohibition shall likewise rather apply. Next is the disclosure and or misuse of confidential information. Public officials and employees shall not use or divulge confidential or classified information officially known to them by reason of their office and not made available to the public. Next is the solicitation or acceptance of gifts. Public officials and employees shall not solicit or accept directly or indirectly any gift, favor, entertainment, loan, or anything of monetary value from any person in the course of their official duties or in connection with any operation being regulated by or any transaction which may be affected by the functions of their office. Under Section 8 of this Republic Act is the statements and disclosure. Public officials and employees have an obligation to accomplish and submit declarations under oath of, and the public has the right to know, their assets, liabilities, net worth, and financial and business interests, including those of their spouses and of unmarried children under 18 years of age living in their households. Statements of assets and liabilities and financial disclosure. All public officials and employees, except those who serve in an honorary capacity, laborers, and casual or temporary workers, shall file under oath their statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, and a disclosure of business interests and financial connections, and those of their spouses and unmarried children under 18 years of age living in their households. The two documents shall contain information on the real property, its improvements, acquisition costs, assessed value and current fair market value, personal property and acquisition cost, all other assets such as investments, cash in hand or in banks, stocks, bonds, and the liabilities, and all business interests and financial connections. The documents must be filed within 30 days after assumption of office, on or before April 30 of every year thereafter, and within 30 days after separation from the service. All public officials and employees required under this section to file the aforestated documents shall also execute, within 30 days from the date of their assumption of office, the necessary authority in favor of the Ombudsman to obtain from all appropriate government agencies, including the Bureau of Internal Revenue, such documents as may show their assets, liabilities, net worth, and also their business interests and financial connections in previous years, including, if possible, the year when they first assumed any office in the government. Husband and wife, who are both public officials or employees, may file the required statements jointly or separately. The statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth and the disclosure of business interests and financial connections shall be filed by constitutional and national elective officials with the National Office of the Ombudsman, senators and congressmen, with the secretaries of the Senate and the House of Representatives, respectively the justices, with the clerk of court of the Supreme Court, judges, with the court administrator, and all national executive officials with the office of the President. Regional and local officials and employees with the Deputy Ombudsman in the respective regions, officers of the armed forces from the rank of colonel or naval captain with the office of the president, and those below said ranks with the deputy ombudsman in their respective regions, and all other public officials and employees defined in Republic Act Number 3019 as amended with the Civil Service Commission. Identification and disclosure of relatives. It shall be the duty of every public official or employee to identify and disclose, to the best of his knowledge and information, his relatives in the government in the form, manner, and frequency prescribed by the Civil Service Commission. Accessibility of documents. Any and all statements filed under this Act shall be made available for inspection at reasonable hours. Such statements shall be made available for copying or reproduction after 10 working days from the time they are filed as required by law. Any person requesting a copy of a statement shall be required to pay a reasonable fee to cover the cost of reproduction and mailing of such statement, as well as the cost of certification. Any statement filed under this Act shall be made available to the public for a period of 10 years after receipt of the statement. After such period, the statement may be destroyed unless needed in an ongoing investigation. Next is prohibited acts. It shall be unlawful for any person to obtain or use any statement filed under this Act for any purpose contrary to morals or public policy, or any commercial purpose other than by news and communications media for dissemination to the general public. Section 9 of this Republic Act is the divestment. A public official or employee shall avoid conflicts of interest at all times. When a conflict of interest arises, he shall resign from his position in any private business enterprise within 30 days from his assumption of office, and divest himself or of his shareholdings or interest within 60 days from such assumption. The same rule shall apply where the public official or employee is a partner in a partnership. The requirement of divestment shall not apply to those who serve the government in an honorary capacity, nor to laborers and casual or temporary workers. Section 10 is the review and compliance procedure. The designated committees of both houses of the Congress shall establish procedures for the review of statements to determine whether said statements which have been submitted on time are complete and are in proper form. In the event a determination is made that a statement is not so filed, the appropriate committee shall so inform the reporting individual and direct him to take the necessary corrective action. In order to carry out the responsibilities under this Act, the designated committees of both houses of Congress shall have the power within the respective jurisdictions to render any opinion interpreting this Act in writing to persons covered by this Act, subject in each instance to the approval by affirmative vote of the majority of the particular house concerned. Under Section 11 of Republic Act Number 6713 is the penalties. Any public official or employee, regardless of whether or not he holds office or employment in a casual, temporary, holdover, permanent, or regular capacity, committing any violation of this Act shall be punished with a fine not exceeding the equivalent of 6 months' salary, or suspension not exceeding 1 year, or removal depending on the gravity of the offense after due notice and hearing by the appropriate body or agency. If the violation is punishable by a heavier penalty under another law, he shall be prosecuted under the latter statute. Violations of Section 7, 8, or 9 of this Act shall be punishable with imprisonment not exceeding 5 years, or a fine not exceeding 5,000 pesos, or both. And in the discretion of the court of competent jurisdiction, disqualification to the hold public office. Any violation hereof proven in a proper administrative proceeding shall be sufficient cause for removal or dismissal of a public official or employee, even if no criminal prosecution is instituted against him. The official or employee concerned may bring an action against any person who obtains or uses a report for any purpose prohibited by Section 8 of this Act. The court in which such action is brought may assess against such person a penalty in any amount not to exceed 25,000 pesos.